someone you love is going to get dementia. Maybe a parent already has. Maybe you've watched it happen firsthand. That slow erasure of a person, the words that just stop coming, the face that stops recognizing you. And yeah, there's a version of the future where that person is you. But listen to me. There is another version because scientists now know that what you eat, starting literally today, can physically slow down how fast your brain ages. And I don't just mean slowing it down a little bit on the margins. I mean measurably, scientifically putting the brakes on. Your daily food choices are actively changing how old your brain actually is. And we're talking about one specific dietary protocol that three major institutions, Harvard, Rush University, and the New England Journal of Medicine, have now validated as the absolute most protective pattern we've ever tested for. The aging brain, yet most people have never even heard of it. The ones who have are usually eating the wrong version of it, and almost nobody is combining it with the two other layers that make it actually work after you turn 40. Well, that's exactly what this explainer is going to fix. Let's go. Section 1. Diets ignore your brain. Built for waistlines, not cognitive health. 20%. Think about that number for a second. Your brain uses a massive 20% of your body's total energy, despite being this relatively tiny organ that makes up only about 2% of your body weight. Millions of people jump on diets like keto or paleo or DASH for their heart or to trim their waistline. But your brain is an absolute energy hog, and we rarely feed it intentionally, because once you cross that 40 mark, your brain is suddenly facing three simultaneous threats that most popular diets out there completely ignore. Let's walk through them. Threat number 1 is neuroinflammation, just quietly rising in the background. Threat number 2, your neurons are actively becoming less efficient at burning fuel. And threat number 3, muscle loss. We now know that losing muscle directly accelerates cognitive decline in ways the research is making undeniable. A true diet designed for your brain has to tackle all three of these at the exact same time. And honestly, most don't even come close. Section 2. The Mind Diet Foundation. The Science of Brain Protection. Developed at Rush University alongside Harvard, the Mind Diet isn't just a nice theory. It was rigorously tested in randomized controlled trials with over 1,600 adults. And the results? Absolutely stunning. People who followed it closely showed measurably slower cognitive decline. In fact, in one major study, structural brain aging was reduced by up to a full year for every 3 points of adherence to the diet. That is huge. So what's the foundation here? It is leafy greens. Every single day. We're talking kale, spinach, arugula. This is without a doubt the single most protective food group in the entire diet. Then, you layer in berries and fatty fish twice a week, build a daily base of extra virgin olive oil, and add nuts and beans to give your brain consistent neuro support. But just as importantly, here's what you absolutely must minimize: red meat, ultra-processed food, refined sugar, and fried food. Now, this is a phenomenal baseline. But here's the catch. This is exactly where most people stop. And as you'll see, that is a massive mistake. Section 3. Why food isn't enough. Timing and muscle preservation. See, the Mind Diet is brilliant at telling you exactly what to eat, but it tells you absolutely nothing about when to eat. And timing is crucial because it activates a deep brain cleanup mechanism that no food can trigger on its own. On top of that, the Mind Diet wasn't built for muscle preservation. And like we just talked about, the muscle-brain connection is one of the most robust findings in aging science today. If you lose muscle, you lose brain protection. It is literally that direct. Section 4, the hybrid brain protocol, 3 layers combined. All right, so how do we fix this? Layer 1 is the Mind Diet, but we are enforcing a strict, totally non-negotiable rule. Leafy greens every single day. Toss some spinach into your morning eggs. Use a massive handful of mixed greens as your lunch base. And crucially, you have to rip ultra-processed food out of your routine entirely. It is not just a harmless little treat. It is a pro-aging input that actively drives neuroinflammation every single time you eat it. Then we stack on layer 2, the number 14. This stands for a 14 to 16 hour overnight fast every single day. Doing this flips a switch on a critical mechanism that absolutely no amount of superfoods can trigger. And that mechanism is a brilliant biological process called autophagy. During fasting periods, your body ramps up autophagy, which is basically a cellular recycling system that goes in and clears out misfolded proteins from your brain tissue. We are talking specifically about amyloid and tau proteins, the exact ones heavily associated with Alzheimer's. You can't eat your way into this state. Only the total absence of food triggers it. And honestly, the math on this is so much simpler than it sounds. You literally just stop eating 2 hours before you go to bed and you break your fast mid-morning. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m. and have breakfast at 9 a.m., boom, you just pulled off a 14-hour fast. You've hit the threshold. But there is a very specific, strategic way you need to break that fast, which brings us to the final piece. But real quick, fasting also spikes your BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as high-grade fertilizer for your neurons. The more of it you have, the more neural protection and cognitive resilience you build up over time. Which brings us to layer 3, the protein upgrade. I've got to confess, this is the layer that completely blew my mind when I first dove into the research. Most of us just think of muscle as purely structural tissue, right? Just meat on our bones to help us move around. But actually, your muscle is an incredibly powerful endocrine organ. Every time your muscle contracts, it releases these amazing little molecules called myokines. These myokines, which by the way include that BDNF fertilizer we just mentioned, literally across the blood-brain barrier to directly feed your neurons. There was a massive 10-year study that found lower muscle mass in midlife predicted significantly higher cognitive decline a full decade later. The pathway from your biceps and your quads straight up to your brain is direct and powerful, which brings us directly to your protein intake. The standard guidelines, they are simply not going to cut it. After 50, the updated research heavily supports 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So you want to make your first meal of the day, the one where you break that fast, your absolute most protein-dense meal. 2 eggs, a handful of spinach, and some Greek yogurt. Gives you almost 40 grams of protein. Fully activates the mind diet and safely breaks your autophagy window correctly. Section 5, your daily action plan. The 3 non-negotiables. Let's tie all of this together into a practical, evidence-based daily action plan that, by the way, requires 0 expensive supplements. Number 1, leafy greens every single day. Number 2, a 14-hour overnight fast where you firmly stop eating 2 hours before your head hits the pillow. And number 3, 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight, making sure that first meal is your biggest protein hit. Look, you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with layer 1 today. Stack layer 2 on top later this week. You just have to get started. So my question to you, Dan, this explainer, is this. Looking right now at these 3 foundational steps, which of them are you actually already doing? Subscribe to Golden Years, Pulse, Longevity Science, Made Simple, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. See you in the next one.